I saw this post on Reddit a while ago about how this guy didn't like that billionaires and hedge funds are investing in Bitcoin. This post didn't really make sense to me because of one particular line he said. Not to mention that we all expected Bitcoin to become peer-to-peer cash, not a store of value for edgy hedge funds. And for those of you that are familiar with crypto, you might say, well, that sounds right. I mean, it's supposed to be a currency after all. And you're partially right. In the Bitcoin white paper, it calls Bitcoin a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that is meant to circumvent financial institutions. But if you look at the way that Bitcoin is designed, it was never meant to be a currency. This is because of a few key differences between it and fiat currency, and for some reason I haven't heard anyone talking about them. Our first reason is the limited supply of Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. This is a problem because of a key principle in finance. And to explain this, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Would you rather have $100 right now or $10 every year for the next 20 years? What would you answer to that? Every good investor would immediately tell you $100 right now. This is because of inflation. You don't know what the value of the dollar is going to be in 20 years. The only definite thing that you know about the dollar is that $1 is going to be worth less tomorrow than it is today. So as an investor or even a consumer, this causes you to either want to store your value in another medium like stocks, bonds, or commodities, or to want to spend your money because most of the time the cheapest an item is going to be is right now, even if the dollar amount on the item is the same in the future. Now let's do the same situation, but we time travel back to 2010 when the price of Bitcoin was less than 1 cent, and ask the same question. Would you rather have 100 Bitcoin now or 20 Bitcoin every year for the next 10 years? Everyone would say 20 Bitcoin a year because Bitcoin goes up in value. I would end up making twice as much money. So unlike fiat currency, cryptocurrency doesn't promote spending, which is the whole basis for the economy. If there's no spending, then there's no economy. The limited amount of Bitcoin also becomes an issue when you consider spreading out only 21 million of a single currency to the whole of the human population. Right now, there is a total of 2.1 trillion US dollars in circulation, and the US dollar is only one of 185 currencies. So even if you broke down every Bitcoin to one Satoshi, which is 1 of 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, you still wouldn't have enough to go around. Especially when you consider that a lot of Bitcoins are stuck in wallets that can't be accessed for one reason or another. As an example, 1 million Bitcoin are stuck in Satoshi Nakamoto, the founder of Bitcoin's wallet, and he hasn't moved any of them ever, and we have no reason to believe that he will ever move them. The second reason is the rate of transfer of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, by design, can only verify 1 megabyte of transactions every 10 minutes. In the future, I'm going to make a video further explaining how Bitcoin and crypto in general works, but for now, that's all you really need to know. 1 megabyte every 10 minutes becomes a serious problem when you think about how many transactions happen in a span of 10 minutes all around the world. The number is probably in the millions. I mean, imagine a world where you go to the store, get all your groceries, and when you go to check out, you swipe your card, then have to wait for 10 whole minutes before the system says you've paid. And that's the best case scenario as well. When making Bitcoin transactions, if the line to have your transaction verified is already more than 1 megabyte, then you have to wait until the next block of transactions. And even today, with how popular Bitcoin is, you have to wait 30 minutes and sometimes more to have your transaction included in a block. Now imagine that, but with millions of transactions every couple of minutes. You might end up waiting in that grocery store for a couple hours to a couple days before your transaction gets verified. And having said all of this, there are other cryptocurrencies that have addressed this issue and could handle the traffic, but I can't think of a single one that doesn't have one or more of the other issues I list. If you do know of a currency that checks all of the boxes that Bitcoin doesn't, and I just haven't heard of it, then please leave a comment and I'd love to hear about it. The third reason is that governments like to have control over their currency because it affects a lot of the economy. To understand how government controls currency and how it affects the economy, we need to first understand a concept called fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking is the concept that banks only need to hold 10% of all of their liabilities or the cash that people have put into their bank. Banks then take the other 90% of that cash and loan it out. And this is really kind of a great concept for everyone involved. You get to keep your money in a secure place and have the convenience of being able to access it whenever you want, as well as getting paid part of the interest on the money that is loaned out if it's yours. Banks get to make money off of interest, and the person getting the loan gets access to money that they otherwise wouldn't have. Really, the only problem is that people like to spend. And when people spend, banks' cash reserves may go below the critical 10%. So as a bank, what do? You need to get more cash in the form of a loan. This can come from one of two places: other banks or the central bank run by the government. The interest on such a loan helps to determine what the interest rate that a bank charges for one or more of their loans is. This interest rate has a special name, the overnight rate. This is because banks settle their balance sheets overnight when the banks are closed and people aren't spending as much. Now, hopefully this all makes sense, but wait, you say, what does all of this have to do with the government controlling currency? The central bank could still give out loans just in cryptocurrency, and they would still be able to affect the interest rates. And to that I would say, in a world that only has one currency, then what is stopping the banks from getting a loan from another country's central bank? After all, the banks only have an allegiance to making money, and so they will pick the party that offers them the loan with the lowest interest rate. This would affect the interest rates in the country where the bank resides, and the governments don't like other governments meddling in their economy. But why are interest rates so important to the economy in the first place? Well, imagine this. You're looking to buy a new house, but you need a loan to buy said house. Well, if the interest rates are high, then it would be harder for you to get the loan, and it may even cause you to say, well, is it really worth it if I'm going to spend that much in interest? This effect ripples out and causes the economy to slow down and decrease because less people have less money to spend. Conversely, when interest rates are low, a lot of people have a lot more money to spend. This causes the economy to grow, but it also causes people to feel richer, and so they are willing to spend more on goods and services, or inflation. So it's pretty important for governments to have a firm control over their interest rates, and the way they do that is by being the sole maker and manager of their currency. The real final big difference between fiat currency and Bitcoin isn't something in its design, but the public's view of cryptocurrency in general. Unless you've done significant research on crypto and are part of the crypto space, then really the only thing that you know about crypto is that people get rich off of it. Bitcoin in particular. The general public doesn't think about Bitcoin as being something that you can spend. As far as they know, it's something that you can invest in. This is why in the United States it is legally considered a commodity. And this is a problem that could be solved through more education and actual application of the currency, like if stores started to accept Bitcoin as payment. However, Bitcoin also has all of the other problems that we've talked about. In the end, Bitcoin was never even meant to take off or be used practically, even as a currency. It was really an experiment to see if this new method of creating a cryptocurrency could be used, and as soon as it went live, it kind of spread like wildfire. Despite all of its flaws, Bitcoin still does have a bright future, but just not as a currency, but as so amazingly put by the Redditor who made the original post, a store of value for edgy hedge funds. Hopefully Bitcoin does spread beyond being only bought by edgy hedge funds though, but also is being used by banks and people everywhere as a more stable store of value, like gold or art. In fact, if you look at all of its aspects, I would say that the US government got it spot on when they legally made it a commodity. So as an investor in crypto and the future of it, seeing banks and large financial institutions start to invest in Bitcoin and use it is an amazing sign for what is to come for crypto and definitely a step in the right direction. Well, thanks for watching to the end. If you would like to see a more in-depth video on any of the concepts explained, leave a comment, and if there's anything that you think I got incorrect in my video, then I'm going to leave a Google form in the description, so please go tell me there. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.